Why I approve of doubting Christianity. My wife, Natalia, and I have the pleasure of helping out with one of the youth groups in our church. It's called CCKY. We regularly have between 40 and 50 11 to 14-year-olds from all around the city of Brighton, which is in southern England, and we get them together on Friday nights. We absolutely love it. It's definitely one of the highlights of the week. Most weeks at youth group we have something called the Engage Hour, which has worship music at the beginning of it, and then we have a preacher, a sermon. And a few weeks back, instead of a normal sermon, we did a Q&A session, and just gave all the young people, as they came in the room, a sheet of paper, said ask anything you want. And I was really amazed how many of our youth were asking really complicated questions about the story of creation in the biblical book of Genesis. And at the end of the night, I ended up chatting with one of the girls in our youth group who was really struggling with some questions around the Bible, namely whether she could trust that the Bible is actually true. And what struck me was how honest she was as she was asking these questions. She had been raised in the church. She's certainly one of the leading youth in our youth group. But she was still struggling with this big question, can I trust the Bible? And if I can't trust the Bible, then how do I know anything I've been taught about Jesus Christ? How do I know any of that is true? And as I was having this conversation with her, I just felt like I could really relate. I grew up in a really legalistic Christian school where biblical teaching was just a one-way street. There wasn't any room for debate. Facts were apparently facts. Questioning anything was very rarely encouraged. And it goes without saying that this is not a really healthy way to learn. True understanding comes through often a very difficult investigation. About 60 years after Christ's resurrection and ascension, the Apostle Peter wrote a letter to a group of churches in an area that we know today as Asia Minor. And he touched on this very issue. He was aware that for the early church to flourish, it was vital that Christians knew why they believed what they believed, not just believe blindly, but know why they believed what they believe. And he wrote in 1 Peter 3, he writes, "Always be prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you, but do it with gentleness and respect." And being prepared to give a defense means being knowledgeable. It means examining the evidence and weighing it for yourself. It doesn't mean shutting your mind off. And I think that's one of the stereotypes of the Christian life, is that when you come to Christianity, when you come to Jesus Christ, you should just shut your mind off. Don't ask questions. Don't engage with difficult questions. Don't engage with the evidence. And that's certainly not the truth. I think that God really wants us to use our mind the way that he created it, for what he made it for. Really using your mind to engage with difficult questions about God, about Jesus Christ. I once heard a journalist for the Toronto Star say that one of the greatest examples of God's love for us is that we were created with the very ability to doubt whether our Creator even exists. And I guess what he was saying was that if God didn't love us, he would have just auto-programmed us to believe in him and to believe in his son Jesus Christ. There wouldn't be any of this wondering. We would just wake up, kind of come to this age of realization, and just automatically we would all know Jesus Christ is the Son of God. What this guy is saying is that wouldn't be an act of love, because you can't say that you love something and not give it the freedom to make decisions for itself, the freedom of independent thought. And of course, you don't have to look too far in the world to know that we, of course, aren't auto-programmed, to believe in God, to believe in Jesus. There are many people who don't. There are many people that just vehemently deny that Christ, either existed, period, or that he was who he said he was, which was, he said he was the Son of God. He said he was the one that was prophesied. He said that he was the Savior, the way, the truth, and the life. And I think my answer to the young person in our youth group with difficult questions is kind of the same answer I give to friends who say that they don't believe in Christianity, they don't have time for Christianity. It's well, if you look at the evidence, I think you'll come to the conclusion that this has to be true. Have you really looked at the evidence? Have you asked the difficult questions? Have you done your homework and really wrestled with this? So why then do I approve of doubting Christianity? Well, my reason is simply this. I think a wise doubter will not rest until they've weighed all of the evidence for and against Christianity. And time again, I've seen people who've honestly investigated Christianity. They all, seem to come to the same conclusion after a thorough investigation. This simply must be true.